All right. Welcome, everybody. Glad you are here for this session of A Little About a Lot. So, as usual, we're here to convene and talk and enjoy the spirit of collaborative discussion, and very glad that Diana's here to help us with some dream work and more about her in just a little bit. So thanks for being here. Just a little orientation, some of the kind of the etiquette of Zoom. We're all pretty well versed in Zoom by now, I think, but find your mute button if you need to. If by chance there's some background noise that we can't identify, I can mute you as well, just until we kind of troubleshoot that out. Sometimes that's accidental, sometimes it's technical, that sort of thing, but I can also mute you. Don't take that personally. You can always unmute yourself after I mute you, that sort of thing. Pretty open conversation as usual. There'll be some introductory preparatory presentation from Diana tonight, and then we'll get to good hearty discussion and a little bit of feedback toward the end. Okay. Diana, it's been a pleasure in this kind of ramp up for this. I met Diana because one of our attendees here, Jim Norse's wife, in fact, Judith, introduced me at an event for the center and asked if she'd be interested. And she said yes, she thought she might be. Had some lunch and began to dive into more about how this might work. And it just sounds so fascinating and wonderful. And I know that Diana herself is both of those things, fascinating and wonderful. Really enjoyed my lunch with her. And so glad you're here, Diana, and bringing the spirit of your discernment over this topic over the years. So thank you for being here. Just to share a few things about Diana. She's been fascinated with images for as long as she can remember, right? This has led her to explore a variety of professions, from graphic design all the way up to Jungian coaching, which is relevant to what we're doing today. Trained as a Jungian psychotherapist, Diana is a skilled educator. She's worked internationally as a keynote speaker, a consultant, leader of women's pilgrimages, and iconography. Senior faculty member with the Haden Institute for 24 years. Diana has also presented in both spiritual direction and Dreamwork trainings. She's ordained as interfaith minister and continues her search for the common threads that weave humanity and soul together, which is what we try to do here as much as possible at the center and in these forums. She lives in North Carolina mountains with her 2 fur babies. Among other things, if just doing a little kind of a bulleted list, I mentioned the spiritual director, a tagline of midwife of soul, right? A certified chaplain, a keynote speaker, awakening soul coordinator at the Kanuga Conference Center. And her quote that she puts on her CV or resume is also inspirational in and of itself. I have learned one important thing in my life, and that is how to begin again. Wonderful. So Diana, thank you so much for being here, and it's over to you.
Thank you. The photo of me looks like I'm going to sleep. So or waking up. I'm not sure which one. Hopefully waking up.
It's a dreamy look, Diana. It's a dreamy look.
It's a very dreamy look. It's a little out there. Okay. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. And what I want to do is give you some sort of keynote elements about Dreamwork. And then after we take a break for the second half, we're going to create a dream. You're going to create a dream, and I'm going to show you how you can work with it. So everyone will be a participant at that time if you choose to be. So Dreamwork for me, as Terry mentioned, it was a perfect segue for me because, first of all, I remembered a lot of my dreams as a child, but I also see in images. I don't think in a linear, logical way, but I'll see images and how they interconnect and work with one another. So with that being said, that's a little warning to you, in that if it feels like I'm going in a circle, stay with me. Okay, we'll get there. Sometimes I go a little sideways, but it all ends up usually connecting. So that's my warning. Uh, and those who know me know that that's very true. uh, so dream work, it's a fascinating focus and commitment, I think. It's offered, like William Burroughs said, there couldn't be a society of people who did not dream. They'd be dead in 2 weeks, which is an interesting thought, that we absolutely, this is a necessary element to one's life force energy. With that said, I just want to ask everybody, have you done any dream work? If so, put your hand up. I just want to see. Oh, look, I'm talking to the converted. Okay. then then you know probably almost as much as I do, I'm sure. D.H. Lawrence said that he could never decide whether his dreams were the reason.
Uh-oh. Diana, you're broken up. Is that true for everybody? Okay. Let me reach her on her phone right quick. Brandon, did you bring your tap shoes?
We can figure something out, I'm sure.
No, we're fine.
She's
Looks like she left the meeting, so maybe she's going to come back on.
Yeah, that's what I suggested, to leave and come back in. The classic reboot. Welcome, Judith. I see you came in since I last saw the Hollywood Squares. Good to see you. Thanks.
Well, she's not showing up in my list.
I'll pause the recording for now. Welcome back,
Well,
Diana.
I apologize. I should warn you, though, that as my husband used to say, I was not allowed to walk through his studio because electronically bizarre things would happen, like light bulbs blow out and garage doors go up and down. So who knows? I apologize if it's my energy, which is quite possible here.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that it's quiet. Nice be nice. Anyway, as I was saying, so I think it's very important for us to acknowledge that there is this whole other reality. Our tendency is to be very concrete in that we like to understand things, we like to associate, we like to say, oh, I know, I'm safe, because I know A, B, C, whatever. The reality is, of course, there is much more we don't know than what we could possibly ever know. And it's all about trusting and not knowing simultaneously. I believe that with my heart and soul. And with dream work, that's particularly true. Now, everyone dreams, even though some people will say they don't remember. But it is a practice, as you know, those of you who have done any dream work, and there needs to be an intention when you are going to bed or going to sleep to ask for a dream. And I always like to say, ask for a dream and then also state, whatever I am given, I will record it. So I'm honoring it. Once you have put down, even in point form, it's always good to give it a title. Um, and it, it's succinct because with the date, and that is always beginning with I am. So in the dog walked in, I might say, I'm seeing the dog walking in. Now, that will register so that if I have a separate little calendar that has just the dates and that information, my dream calendar is over here, or my dream work, then I know where to find the dream. And it's a good way to have like a glossary of your dreams, which can be very helpful when you're working them, because often people will say in the midst of a dream, oh, that reminds me of this other dream. And then they have it's a way to be able to find it easily. So everybody dreams, even though some people say that they don't. It is a that you commit to the, and if you can, when you wake up, try not to move. It's like, if you can. Now, if you have children, dogs, or cats, good luck. It doesn't work so well. But body scan through your whole body and notice, is there a sensation somewhere? Is there a tightness? Is there any pain? Because that's where the dream may be registering. The body, I believe, is always situated somewhere in the body. And so the dream is associating with that. And it's very helpful then to remember later, because if we just put the title in this one sentence, there's a good chance you won't remember all the details. I mean, very good chance later on. So what it does is it allows you to go back to that body part and put a little pressure there. Let's say it was in my left arm that I felt the most sensation. So if I were to massage it a bit or hold it, then that may help me to recapture the words that I have put down, or that maybe things I'd forgotten that will come around during the day. With that in mind, also keep in mind synchronicity. Because when we're dreaming in this unconscious mode, then what we're doing actually, I believe, is putting forth this information that is coming out of the unconscious. It's not conscious, because everything in the dream, every single element is you. Our tendency is to think, oh, that's about Mary Jo over here on the corner, and I know exactly what that's about because I know her. Well, no, it's not about Mary Jo. It's about the characteristics that you have projected onto Mary Jo that are actually in you. And so sometimes that's very challenging, as you probably know, where somebody shows up that you may not get along well with, or you may have had a big conflict with, or they may be dead for that matter. And you think, wait a minute, how's this happening? It's all about what is in you that is associating with the dynamics of that image. That includes furniture, that includes the environment, it includes people, it includes animals, everything. Everything is an aspect of your own psyche. And sometimes people find that challenging to accept, because oftentimes the dreams that we remember most easily are the ones that might be a bit disturbing, or we might think, oh, what'd he show up for? It's like, and then we want to discount it, right? And we say, oh, because I didn't like him when I met him last time, blah, blah, blah. This is in you. So for men, when you're dreaming and there's a woman, that is your anima. In other words, the feminine in you. the emotion, the intuition, the body is very often presented in a woman's form. But remember, it's the feminine in you, because in Jungian psychology, we both carry masculine and feminine energies, and that it's all about how they are interacting, supporting one another, challenging one another, evolving to a higher consciousness. And the only way that happens is if we can own these projections that we have, right? So now for a man, his anima will show up. She may be very sexy. She may be somebody you know. She may be somebody that you're terrified of, all of which are important and good to know. And in the end, as you'll see as we go on tonight, how to associate and project and work with them in terms of what's being brought up for you to learn about yourself. For women, we have this animus, which is a masculine energy, which is primarily
I'll fill in the blanks. Right all the time. Is that right? I'm sorry I had to interject that. I've lost Diana again. I'll let her know that we've lost her. Sorry about that, folks.
Around thinking, doing thing, and in our society have become what we call fathers, daughters here of not knowing, right? It's the part of you that is the other, and we call that the shadow, and the shadow is not to be afraid of, although a lot of people feel that when shadow energies show up, it's frightening, and it can be. The reason we have frightening dreams really is just to remember. It's like, if it scares you, you're probably going to remember a lot more than if it's some nice, happy little walk through the park, right? I mean, that kind of goes. But if it freaks you out and you're like, oh my God, what was that? That's good, because that's saying this is important. This is for you. We want you to remember that, and make sure you write it down. And also note where it is in your body if you can. So Carl Jung was a curious character from 1875 to, what was it, 1960, he died. And he believed in the existence of the unconscious, as Freud did also. However, the difference was that Jung believed that it was not about instinctual, sexual, or animalistic energy. It was about a much more spiritual presentation, a more spiritual meaning, and it was helping us in order to enter into that. As you're really dedicated to meditation or this type of work, a lot of people just kind of go sideways with it. And if you said to them, well, what's your spiritual unconscious telling you, they think you might be a little goofy. However, if you're committed, then you understand. Now, it's a way of communicating, according to Jung, and acquainting ourselves with this unconscious material. It's not to conceal true feelings at all. It's more about waking you up and saying, notice, take note. And often it's about people or energies that we think, oh, I understand that. But we only understand it in projection. We don't necessarily own it. And that's where this work brings it back home. And we have to say, what is that in me? How do I feel that? Where is it in my body, etc. So it is a window into the unconscious. Um, a guide to your waking self as well. And it often can be very instrumental in moving one forward in decision making if you have a practice of checking with your dreams. The dream will not lie to you. I believe that. There may be a trickster sometimes that shows up to try and get you to think outside your box. However, it's always, in my experience, telling you the truth about something that we don't know about ourselves. It's sort of like if you think about trying to look at your spine, you cannot see your spine without a mirror. And this is where working with other people, working in a dream group or with another, is what they will project and offer you in return for you sharing the dream. Now, saying that, I want to stress, for me, dream work is it's very sacred work. It's very sacred and spiritual. And so I always say to people, if you're going to share your dreams, make sure it's somebody that has a commitment with you as a container. Because I've heard people in the grocery store say, oh, I had this crazy dream and blah, blah, about it, laughing at it and then thinking it means nothing. And I'm standing behind them thinking, oh my God, like you have no idea what you just said. But unless I know the person, I try to be quiet. So our conscious ego, of course, is our sense of self, right? It's how I portray myself. And part of Jung's theory is that all things are compared as opposites. They're paired as opposites. And that's what we call a shadow, the counter ego, another way of saying it. The shadow often is very primitive. It's hasn't recognizing in who I am or how I've behaved or how I made a decision recently. And consequently, it can be very uncultured and awkward and kind of creepy sometimes. And sometimes the images are not something we can actually identify. And this is where it's wonderful if you give yourself permission in writing your dream to draw a little sketch of what that is. I have a brother who does shadow assembly sculptures in Canada, and he only records his dreams with images. So there's no words, it's only the pictures, and you read the pictures as they go along. So there's different ways you can do it. It's also a great idea if you have a dream that really feels that it's speaking to you, that it's offering you something important or something you need to know. I suggest if you are an artist at all, or if you draw, even if it's stick figures, do it, because you'll see it from a different perspective. One of the things I've done with clients in the past is have them on a fairly large piece of paper with X's and O's or drawing whatever they are comfortable with, create the dream, and then put it on the floor and walk around it, because you will see it from different angles and different perspectives. What if I entered over here instead of over here? What would that be telling me, right? Because the dream is not necessarily linear or logical. We make it that when we bring it out in memory. It's images. It's absolute image of emotion. There's no logic, because the part of the brain that actually has all of the labels goes to sleep. The part that wakes up are symbols and emotion. So all you've got to work with is symbols and emotion. emotion, which can be terms that are useful to understand. One is the persona, and it's the image that you present to the world, how you see yourself, how other people see you. That's your persona. And it's very much in waking life. So when you see yourself in the dream, it may be saying, ah, you may know the persona, but you may not know this unconscious aspect. And that's when we usually get a surprise or, wake up or whatever we're supposed to do. It's our persona is sort of your personal mask in the world, right? And then there's the shadow, as I've mentioned, and the shadow is literally what you do not know. It's aspects of the self that may be rejected or feared or repressed, and they will come up in a form that we then have to work with to discern what is it, why is this here? Why did it show up, right? Why is it with me? It can often be the bully or the frightening person or the extremely shy person who hides in the corner and doesn't have a voice. All of that would be shadow. It's what we do not see ourselves as. And to me, that's probably the most important awareness, is to notice my dream, an image, and it's trying to tell me something. A great example of this is I have a little dog, and if she shows up to me, she's but aside from that, she's very, very sweet, and but she's a bit of a scrapper outside and would protect it, very protective. And so it's that instinct in me, that aspect of myself. Dogs we consider are more masculine, even though it might be a feminine dog, whereas cats are feminine. And if you think about that, cats cannot be controlled. I know, if you have one. I have a bizarre one. And he does what he does, but that's part of that instinctual feminine instinct, whereas the dog, if it's masculine, is more of what can be trained, what can learn to be disciplined. I don't think cats are very disciplined, at least mine aren't. Hang on one moment, I apologize. Cassie, please don't do that. Please don't do that. We'll see how that works. So then we talk about the anima and animus, which, as I've mentioned, is the male and female aspects. And everyone has both of these. And it's hard for some people to accept that. They say, oh, well, this man who I'm afraid of was in my dream, and I know it's all about him. Well, yes, it's about your projection of your fear of that masculine in yourself that he represents. And so it's sort of turning the mirror around. Now, some people are open to that, some not. It depends on how well you're able, I think, to integrate masculine and feminine energy within yourself, and to be able to racket sometimes that emotional quick response, and be able to see it with a little bit of distance, realizing, oh, this is something for me to learn. I may not like it, or I may be afraid of it, or it may be wonderful, in which case, but it's all me. It's all me. Another primary archetype that Carl Jung identified was a divine child. And this is an aspect that shows up in our dreams often as a very young being, can be glowing, sometimes almost majestic background and very light often. And it's also saying this is a vulnerable aspect that is, if let's say we project the child is 4, okay. People often say, well, when I was 4 years old, this happened. That may well be. The way I work is I would say to you, 4 years ago, what were you doing? What was the new creative aspect in you, either masculine or feminine, that was created 4 years ago and now is here for us to see? And if it's the divine, it's some spiritual, deep part of us that we need to honor and care for, obviously. It symbolizes innocence often and vulnerability. And it is usually a child of some sort. There's a wise old man or woman. And when, we have these more aged aspects, or a teacher, or your father, if that was an aspect that supported you and was helpful, or not. I mean, you'd have to identify that. A priest, a doctor, that sort of authority figure. And they offer guidance to us. We go to them when we need input. So note that. There's the great mother that shows up, who is the nurturer in us and appears often as your own mother, if that was a positive relationship, or your grandmother, possibly. Or if it wasn't a positive relationship, she may show up also, which is a little different work to do, which we'll look at in a bit. She's often associated, the great mother's often associated with dominance, seduction, maybe, death. It's like that aspect of our psyche that is greater, right? It's outside our normal perception and is within the feminine. The trickster, also, we have lots of tricksters in dreams, and we need the trickster. Plays jokes on us, can be and prevent us from proceeding with something we're attempting to do. But at the same time can also be an energy showing up in us that decides, I'm going to trick you to see the other side of the leaf. Maybe I wouldn't do that otherwise, right? So trickster can be male or female. Often it's a male, but not necessarily. I think in a patriarchal society today, fathers, daughters come up with a lot of the same images. And I would say there's not much difference between men and women. It's just what we project and associate with it. Also, the trickster is sometimes uncertain, sometimes trying to literally trick us. So we have to be somewhat alert and identify this. In the dream or over a couple of dreams may shift and change. That's always something to note also. So that very simply gives you a little bit of information about is that when we look at dreams, we need to be open to paradox, metaphor, symbols, dream language, all of which, some people say, oh yeah, I understand it. That's what I suggest. It's like in my dream, this is what this is. And so you'll see when I'm going to have you create a dream, and I'm going to ask you to always begin your responses to that with "in my dream," so that every dream can offer everyone in the group a learning, a deepening, more information on a subject, even though it's not our dream. It really is quite magical how that works. Actually, I wanted to tell you of a situation where I have done this a number of times, where with a group such as yourself, one person will say, I have an issue and a situation that I need to figure out. I need some support. I need more information. So without telling us what that is, this is an African ritual where the group do not know what this situation is or the problem is, but what they do know is the individual who's asking. So they take either an object belonging to that person or
I'm going to call a break for this right now and see if I can work with Diana on the phone for a little bit to see if we can find a better connection. So we'll take our halftime bio break at this time. So let's take a break, see if we can't figure this out over the next 5 minutes or so. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right, trying again. So a quick review of the primary aspects in dream work that we have to be aware of: paradox, metaphor, symbol, sort of ambiguity, always, silence, emotion, and embracing absolutely not knowing is very important. The minute we say, oh, I know what it means, we probably don't. There's no idea of the true meaning really until we work it, until we project and gradually unfold the dream. Now, also, I would add to that with dream work, you can record an important dream. You can do lots of work on it today. And you may think, oh, got it. I got it. And then 10 years from now, you could work that same dream and it would also give you another aha, because the dream offers these symbols out of this ethereal unconscious, which is we don't even understand. Right? It's magic in many ways, I think. Is with compassion, which is the word that I tend to hold on to when I want to work with someone's dream or my own, if I'm working with someone on my dream, to remember that this is to approach it with compassion. This is a gift. It's God's forgotten language, as many would say, giving us information that we do not know. And it's important that we honor it in that way for me. What I want to suggest is that we're going to create a dream. You're going to create a dream. And then I'll show you how we can work it and invite you to participate in that. Now, what I need from you is for people to either in the chat box, if there is one, or to put your hand up. I mean, either way. And Terry's going to record the dream as we put it together. So the first element is imagine you're entering into your dream. What's the first thing you see? Somebody offer that.
A precipice.
A precipice, okay? So we have a precipice. And is it daytime or nighttime?
Can this be anybody, or should I continue? Is it just anybody can add the extra things? Not a good time to freeze, Diana. Dang it.
Again.
So Diana, can you hear?
It should be anybody.
Okay, there you go.
Froze
So
again. Okay.
Early,
What did we work with, day or night?
early morning.
Early morning. Perfect. Okay. And so we have this early morning precipice image.
Oh,
And what's the weather? Somebody offer the weather.
I got sunset. Okay. What was that one?
Clear.
Clear. Thank you.
Clear.
Guys.
Okay,
Clear.
good.
It's a clear. Yep.
It's clear. And what is the action that is occurring? Describe a figure in this action. Or what's happening? What's happening here?
I see birds flying over.
I saw that too.
Okay, birds are flying over.
good.
A path appears.
What else is happening? Is this, who is seeing the birds flying over? Is there somebody?
Guess I am.
You are. So the person dreaming is seeing the birds flying over. Are they going from left to right or right to left?
Right to left.
Right to left. Okay. And is there some action with another being or creature?
A cat is watching also.
Somebody.
A cat is watching, I heard.
Yes.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Judith.
A cat is watching? Is that it?
That's right. That's what was spoken. Yep.
Okay. And how old is the cat?
3. 3 years.
3 years. Okay. And is the cat male or female?
Female.
Female. Okay. 3-year-old female. And is there any other action or any other person or being or creature that is coming forth that you notice?
The cat begins to walk on the precipice.
Ah, the cat's walking on the precipice. Okay. Cool. So let's say that's when we wake up. Now, Terry, did you write this out?
I did. Shall I share?
Where?
I'll put
Yes,
it up here. Just yeah,
please.
I'll share it back here in a sec. Yep. All right. How does that look? I can get it out of the weeds here a little bit.
Perfect.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, so we have, I see a precipice, early morning. It's clear. Birds are flying over right to left. There's a 3-year-old female cat watching, beginning to walk along the precipice. Did we identify where the cat was in relationship to the person dreaming? Did somebody say it was to the right or left or in front or behind?
Between me and the precipice.
So is that, well, okay, is that to your right or left, or is it directly in front?
In front.
It's in front. Okay. Okay, got it. All right. So, did we leave something out here? Because I wasn't writing it down, so.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Is there anything else that we can add,
Okay.
anybody? Yeah. All right.
I think that was basically, oh, what, it was, what's the weather? It's clear. Okay,
That's
we
right.
know that. And the cat is in what position to the person, to the dreamer?
Standing in
Where
front
is
of
the
the
cat?
person.
In
The cat
front?
is standing in front of the
In
dreamer
front?
with the precipice beyond it.
Right,
Beyond her.
got it. Okay. Okay, let's say that's her dream. Somebody give me a title.
Catwalk.
Perfect.
Catwalk. Perfect. Okay, that's excellent. And one sentence that you feel captures the energy in this, that begins with I am, a short sentence that captures the energy. I am what?
Is this I am in the dream, or I am as I'm looking at the back of the dream?
So I am.
Is this I am the one looking back at the dream, or the I am within the dream?
Yeah, imagine that this is your dream. And if that's you observing all of this, then if you were going to summarize it for yourself, what would you say? I am watching a bird. This is about this dream unfolds as.
Anybody?
I'll jump in.
Please.
I am relaxed, enjoying the morning, and then suddenly anxious as the cat walks along the edge.
Okay. So I am relaxed, but I'm condensing slightly. I am relaxed, watching anxiously the cat walking along the edge. Does that capture?
Yeah. Nice.
Enjoying the morning, anxious as the cat walks.
Focus,
the edge.
focused on the
Okay.
flying bird.
So, with this in mind, what was that?
Focused, the cat is focused on the
Oh,
flying
focused on the
bird.
birds.
Yeah, and walking along the edge.
Nice. It's not easy for me to see Diana. Did she?
She's
Perhaps
frozen.
she's escaped. Yeah,
I think
time
she's
to.
frozen.
Yeah. Just have to rejoin here.
She's mesmerized by our dream.
It's just what it is. That's it.
Don't mute us, okay? If you don't want to participate, that's okay, but I do.
This reminds me of soul collage. Creating a soul collage card and giving it a title and then identifying I am and in the card, in the images in the card.
That's pretty interesting, Cindy. I hadn't done a good formal soul collage. I just played with the collage materials. I wasn't led through one. But that is part of it, though.
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
pretty cool. Yeah. That's pretty neat. Has anyone else done a soul collage?
No.
It is interesting. You take images from magazines and whatnot, and you just create a collage, and then you do it
Access, yeah,
you do
access
it
your.
you do it contemplatively. I can't even say it right. Do it contemplatively, and then you give it a title and a summary. Is that right, Cindy?
You don't do it necessarily all that contemplatively. You do it without thinking about it, and then you access your
Oh,
subconscious through it.
I see. Neat. All right. Well, we might have to get out the papers and scissors here. My goodness, come on, Diana.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Oh, man, this is so annoying. I don't know. I apologize.
Did you get the last? Did you get the last add-on that the where I am relaxed, enjoying the morning, watching anxiously as the cat walks along the edge, focused on the birds. That was the
Yes.
last part. Yeah.
Got that.
All right.
Okay, so now I want everyone to close their eyes for a moment and just imagine this little story that you see a precipice, it's early morning, it's clear, birds are flying over right from the right to the left. There's a 3-year-old female cat watching, standing in front between you and the precipice. The cat begins to walk along the precipice, focused on the birds. Okay. So come back with your images and imagine this is your dream. You're waking up with this dream. And responding in my dream as you're opening, what would you project here? What would you think of this dream for yourself? I am what? In my dream, I am.
I'll jump in, my hand's up.
Oh,
In
please
my-
do, Daphne. Yeah, please do.
In my dream, I am happy to be alive.
Great. Happy to be alive.
Do I need to be taking notes here?
Yeah,
Diane?
that'd be,
All right.
unless you want me to.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
In my dream, I'm concerned about the cat not paying attention to where it's walking because it's focused on the birds flying. And I feel anxious.
So in my dream, I'm anxious,
I feel
focusing on the cat. Could we say distraction or?
distracted. That's a good word.
Okay.
Not
The
paying,
cat's safety and distraction, or whichever, both. Yeah.
All right.
not paying attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And someone else? What kind of birds are there?
What kind of birds? I see gray birds,
Gray birds.
catbirds.
Catbirds. Okay. Catbirds. That's good. All right.
Are they making those annoying sounds? Or are they just flying around? Because I saw catbirds this morning just fussing with each other endlessly.
They do fuss a bit. So that's
do.
good to notice.
So I think the precipice, the way that it's being discussed in this is at the same level. You don't need to type this, Terry. I'm describing first. It's at the same level that we are. So the precipice is an edge that you could potentially fall off of, right? I think that's maybe
Yeah,
what
I
it is
think-
that we're describing, but that's
That
not what
would
I
kind of
see.
make sense also.
Yeah, and that's what I think it probably should be, but that's not what I see. So what I see is a you know, a mountain or, you know, a wall of rock next to us, and the precipice is at the top. So I'm below, right? I'm on the ground looking up at the
Okay.
precipice. And to that, I feel awe at the beauty and the immensity of the precipice.
Okay. So let's add to our image. There's a wall that is taller than we are. And the cat is on top of that.
Mhm.
Okay. Do we know? Oh, we know that this is catbirds. Okay, 3 words that you associate with catbirds.
Noisy.
Yeah, fussy,
Noisy.
noisy. Yeah.
Slender.
Okay.
Gray.
Gray.
Another characteristic, sort of, we've got noisy, and then we have this image of the slender gray, but one more characteristic in behavior,
Flitting about.
flitting about.
Flitting about.
Perfect. Okay. So I want you to think of this as your dream. And if you had this dream, we know so far that we'd be happy to be alive, anxious though, about the cat's safety and distraction. We have the birds overhead, and we see the precipice that is above us. It would require a climb to get to, I assume. And this is where our cat is. So if I were working with this dream, I would say that the dreamer is the conscious ego self who has had this dream. It's early morning, so it's telling us it's a new beginning, possibly a new covenant, a new awareness. It's the beginning of some new consciousness. It's very clear, which is, we're going to get the information. We have access to it. It's not clouded and it's not saturated. It's just very clearly presented. And what we're seeing, what conscious ego, the dreamer, is seeing, are these gray birds, right? So gray being a color, it's midway between black and white. So it's the middle of sort of varying degrees of the polarity of black and white. And so these birds, to me, in my projection, in my dream, would be, they're not all good and they're not all bad. You know, they're like, yeah, they have access to both probably. It might be irritating or at times, but also have a purpose, right? And they're moving from right to left. In other words, this is a spirit creature within me, in my dream, that is coming out of something I know. The right-hand side is that masculine side. This is what I know and have access to. And it's moving out of what I know into a feminine emotion or somewhere in my body or a feeling in my body. So it's this spirit energy, seems to be a lot of it, that's moving, that's sort of, you know, it's neither one polarity nor the other. It's kind of neutral in a way, that is going over my cognitive understanding, but my conscious ego, my eyes see it. So that's affirming. And then what we discover is that there's this feminine creature, the goddess cat creature. And she's doing what I would expect her to do, which is to be where she probably isn't supposed to be. And but she seems to be maneuvering rather well. So here's this, if it's my dream, in my dream, here's this feminine instinct in me that is quite capable of balancing on a narrow edge. And it's something I'm looking up at. It's something that it's not below me. It's not even at my eye level. It's a little bit above. So again, that sort of reinforces in my dream, it would be the spirit. It has something to do with spirit. And here's all these wonderful birds going, which are affirming that. But it's something, it's not threatening and it's not overly enlightening, right? It's in the middle. It's also 3 years old. So I need to look at what was happening in my life 3 years ago when this creature, this instinct in me was born. Now, it's very synchronistic because last weekend was the anniversary of my husband's death, 3 years. So that's where I would go immediately, right? Is, okay, this spirit was created, and there's quite a flock of it that's moving out of what I know into what I do not know. I would project spiritually, and it's a little above me. It's not grounded, but I have access to it. And the part of me that is really focused on this is the feminine instinct. This cat, right? The cat. And it's that feminine goddess instinct that doesn't miss a trick. You know, I mean, as we all know, if you have cats, I mean, the smallest little bug can be going around that I don't even notice, and the cat starts climbing the wall or jumping on things. They see incredibly tiny movement. So it's that part of my feminine instinct and feelings that are that tuned in. And I'm walking on a very narrow path. I could go either way or fall off. However, I seem to be doing quite well on this. It's quite comfortable. And I seem to know where I'm going. I'm also going into the unknown. I'm going into the unconscious, out of consciousness, into that feminine space again. Maybe it's into my body. Maybe there's an aspect of my body this is calling. And it's saying I'm moving into that place where I'm going to see the spirit is going to somehow connect me with this. It's something that seems a little noisy. It's a little, it's kind of neutral, but noisy, flits about a bit. Probably not my most focused self, in other words, if it's my dream. And, but my feminine instinct is very sure of each step. So I'm continuing to move forward one step at a time on this transitional precipice. That could be dangerous, but doesn't seem to be. We're doing okay. And I also have this awareness of incredible beauty. So the image is a very healing image in my dream. And it's empowering in the sense that it's affirming that that instinct in me can walk a narrow path and that the spirit is with me. I'm not sure where I'm going in this dream. I'm not sure the destination, but that doesn't seem to be a big concern at the moment. It's more to me, this dream, in my dream, it would be more about affirming possibly my instincts and feelings within myself of what I need to do next, or what's the next step. And to do it carefully, but instinctually, but one step at a time. So if I said to you, is there anything different, or what would you add to this? In other words, if this was your dream, what would you add that I may not have touched on?
Diana, it's interesting to me that the animals here are a cat and cat birds. One of them being at ground level, and the other being, in the realm of spirit, let's say. But they have an affinity for each other through the similarity of their names. So if it were my dream, I would think of where the affinities are between the instinctual life and the spiritual life. That there needs to be a connection between those two.
Very good.
Right. Excellent. And there is a connection if we have this space between, right? I mean, they are going in the same direction, which I think is very positive. But I agree with you. There's the disconnect. It's like saying, I can see this and I can see this, or I feel this and I see this, right? And they haven't come together. But as you point out, the instinctual common denominator is the word cat. So that's interesting to me.
That is interesting. Thanks, Jim.
Diana, you mentioned that the number 3
Yes.
represents that this might be something that's 3 years old.
Yes.
And I thought, what was I doing 3 years ago? And I realized that all of us in this room 3 years ago were just being released to re-enter the public after COVID.
Perfect.
In the summer of 2021.
That's right.
Yep.
Great association. Yeah. So this could be what we would call a collective dream, where it could speak to
Right.
all of us.
Mhm.
of this feminine instinct walking the tightrope or the precipice with a new spirit that's accompanying us that hasn't landed yet. Interesting. And it's neither black nor white. It's somehow integrated. That's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
So anybody want to keep adding anything else?
Yeah,
to
one thing I might distinguish from mine, or I notice, is considering the precipice as a path or a decision that I'm considering, and
Right.
then that it may have been a path I took 3 years ago, if we want to bring the age in there, and to be worried about where I'm at on this path. There's lots of distraction, the birds, and that's really the risk of me staying on the path, is being distracted.
Exactly.
Because staying on the birds are causing anxiety because they can distract me from the path and I could hurt myself. But if I stayed on the path, it would be really good if I just stayed on the path. And I like how that marries up to the dichotomy of spiritual and literal, the spiritual and the practical and those kinds of things. If you stay on the spiritual, that path is probably going to be rewarding, despite the expectations of the dichotomous birds flying all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I
So
wonder, I also found that the linguistic sweetness of this is the phrase "sitting in the catbird seat" is a good place to sit, right? So if you get, maybe perhaps it's an extra thing, if you can see both the cat and the bird, the sun will be shining and it'll be a happy to be alive kind of moment. Yeah.
And I would say about 3 years, it's not only what happened 3 years ago, but what possibly was generated in me, or what action did I begin 3 years ago that may be in process now. And it may be that the dream is saying that the concept appeared, or the need for it appeared 3 years ago, but only now am I getting more information of affirmation of that. So it's like, look back. And I would say, if we had a little child in this dream, let's say, and we say, or another person, I'd say, how old is that person? And then we would look back at that as that masculine or feminine energy that was born at that time, but may only be coming to awareness now, right? I mean, it's these aspects of us. We're always growing. Hopefully, we're always becoming more conscious. So we get more information as we live and die and, process, basically. But certainly in this spiritual grounded perception. And it's interesting also, Cindy, I think, or I may have projected it, it was like I saw a brick wall. And if it was a brick wall in my dream, there's a lot of solid aspects that have been cemented together that I'm now instinctually on top of. It's not embodied in me as a human, but it is in my feminine instinct. It is, and is balancing with the spirit guiding overhead. So all of that would be a very significant element in what's going on for the dreamer right now, that would apply to. And in my own projection, I could make that my dream. I mean, I could do that,
Sure.
without any trouble.
Right. I see. I could see that.
Terry and
Anybody?
Diana.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Please.
In my dream, I would want to know or think about where in my life now do I feel on the precipice of something.
Absolutely.
What now may make me very anxious about falling into the deep divide, or to use that image of the precipice even more. But I would also in my dream want to ask, myself, can I be more cat-like in handling this precipice issue, in walking along? You know, what aspects of being feline and risk-taking that I might,
see.
or do I just want to sit down and purr, you know, and watch those birds go by? You know, yeah, I would play more with those images, the precipice,
excellent.
being more
Thank you,
like the cat.
Betsy.
That's very
Brilliant.
neat.
Brilliant.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's great. And
It is.
it's like to keep going. So there, someone else, is there another layer for you? Some association that, you know, you associate to something you've heard.
Mhm.
You can just keep, it's really like peeling an onion, I always think. In the beginning, we get the dream, which are more the chunks, you know, it's like this chunk, that chunk, we can identify the bird, the dog, the cat, whatever. But as you take an onion and continue to peel and you move towards the heart, the layers get very, very thin. And we often cry. It's a great image of going deeper into the soul base, I think, and which to me, the dream is that that's the precipice for me, is the dream. So, and I could project all kinds of things onto this personally.
Mhm.
So I love what Betsy said, though, it was very
Yeah.
helpful. And, anyone else have some thoughts you want to throw in here, please?
You know, the acupuncture school that I attended, the president of the school had a favorite expression. He said, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. And I think when I see this, in my dream, when I see this sure-footed cat, you know, walking on the edge of the precipice, looking at the birds, not being particularly fearful, but being very sure-footed on the edge. It seems to me that this is a quality that I need to embrace for myself, because where the action is on that edge, on that knife edge. And the worst that could happen is I could fall off.
Right.
And what would that mean in the dream?
Well, and cats usually land on their feet, so that's the good news, you know.
Yeah.
That's right.
So if you did, you can, you know, start over. But that was great. Thank you, Jim. That was great. Is there some more input here? Somebody else?
I'm not sure this is helpful. Diana, you mentioned that had it been a brick wall, it would connote other types of, you know, questions to ask and or affirmations to make versus a mountainous wall. And I also wonder about the position of it, objectifying it as something up and above like Cindy did, as opposed to a path before me, as if the cat's asking me to join it on the precipice or something, right? So it could be the positional thing, I presume, right?
And
That's
that
interesting.
would be determined by the dreamer, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, I see.
So it could be anything in between. I mean, I agree.
Gotcha.
If it were at one's same level, then that's certainly affirming, although it's also challenging. Does that
Right.
mean I'm supposed to be on the precipice? Am I walking the precipice? Right.
Right.
What's that about?
Right.
And how do I feel about that? You know?
Right.
Diana, I'm focused on watching anxiously as the cat walks along the edge, focused on the birds. And I'm hearing a warning to me, if this is my dream. I'm hearing a warning.
I see.
Not, you know, where am I not focused? Where is
Good.
my attention, and how, you know, is there danger in my lack of attention or focus?
Which is great polarity to what we've been saying till now. So thank you for that.
That really is good. Yeah.
It's very good because in the dream world, both are possibly being given to us at the same time. So the more we can expand and discover the polarities, the closer we get to the heart, literally, of what the dream is trying to give to us as direction, information, warning, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes it's all of the same. It's all of the above. Because
Right.
if you think of the dream also as a spiral, and you're in the middle of the spiral's going around you. And so every thought, every image, every emotion is in that spiral. There's no way we know what comes out at us or in what combination or with what intensity, right? That's like a perfect way of realizing that's how random the dream can be also, because it only has image and emotion. It doesn't have logic. There's no logic. But when we start to work it, as we have here, it starts to make a lot of sense. It's really a guide. It's a sacred guide.
You mentioned earlier about synchronicity, and you just now pointed out to the value of finding the different poles, the different polarity. Is finding that different polarity just basic? Is it a way in Dreamwork? Is it a way to open the pathways to synchronicities that you might that might befall you tomorrow or a week from now, or when this dream recurs, that sort of thing?
That's a great question. I would say the more conscious we become about our environment, about images, about the feelings we project onto them, yes, the more we have access. But sometimes people who've never done any of this, or are sort of, I have a relative who, let's say, is basically unconscious most of the time. And she might tell me a dream and has no clue. I mean, no clue as to what it's saying. And she'll say, oh, it was this great dream. And, a barrel of water fell on me and I thought it was funny. And I'm like, you might want to think about this. And it's like, oh, no, I thought it was funny. So, like, some people just, they have this plethora of information they're not grasping, right? Because the dream is always coming in the service of health and wholeness. And we have to remember that. It only comes to help us heal and become more whole. I don't know, if once one is committed to consciousness, I can't think of anything better, personally.
Was that Jung's formulations of the value of dreams? Was that it was our conscious trying to talk to? Is that more of something you've gotten from your spiritual
that
development
was,
and directions?
Jung was he associated, even though he was a medical doctor as well and was criticized for a lot of his theories at the time. But he was seeing it definitely as this, unconscious material that is being given for guidance in what is next, what do I need to know, where am I being called, in terms of the bigger picture of body, spirit, mind, all of the above, right?
Right.
And so the dream is always, in my opinion, coming to give us support, to give us guidance, even when it's frightening. And when it's frightening, I always like to say to people, don't be afraid of it. It's only saying this is really important.
Right.
And you
It's a
need
way to get your attention. Like you said earlier, it's a way to get your attention.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah. If anyone else, what would you add to this? Is there anything more you would add to this dream?
I would like to add that in my dream, I see the precipice as some possibly future danger or something that I need to be aware of, and the cat is there to draw my attention to it.
Good.
tell me that I need to watch this, watch my step.
Perfect.
That's
That's
interesting.
excellent.
That is
So in your dream, this is really a warning. It's giving you precognitive information, right? To
Right.
be aware.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Anyone else? Thank you, Daphne.
Well, I can share that it really wasn't my dream as we were putting it together, and didn't become my dream until Diane said, basically, put yourself in the dream and how do you feel? And I was enjoying watching that cat walk upon that wall because cats do that so well.
Yeah.
And I'm a great admirer of cats. So I was admiring that cat for walking along that wall. And those catbirds, I really like catbirds. I think they're interesting birds. And so that's where the three came in for me. The catbirds, and me make three.
Perfect.
And I had some sense of well-being,
Great.
admiring that cat, seeing those catbirds, and being part of three.
I love it. Thank you,
That's
William.
beautiful. Thank you, William. That's
That's
beautiful.
great.
Yeah.
Also, think of three as it's a pair plus something new, right? So it's two of the same plus something new, and what you're indicating would fit with that beautifully. That was great.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is to listen to how each person, when we take a dream in and speak to it as if it is our dream, whether it's ours or not, we can begin to hear the possibilities of the polarity of meaning. I mean, one person can find this fascinating and joyful almost and celebratory, and someone else is terrified. All of which are possible, all of which are part of the psyche and part of what I need to know, right? What is resonating with me right now? In 10 years, the same dream might resonate in the actual polarity opposite. Who knows? But that's the magic of dream work, is that it really, to me, is so mystical that it's not logical, it's not linear. And yet it has this profound effect on us. It has influence on things we are drawn to or repulsed by. It's always giving us more information if we can just capture or tune into it. I don't think I finished. This brings back to me when I was talking about a group and everybody takes the name of the person who has an issue and you put it under your pillow. And when you gather all of that information from everybody as if it's this is the dream they were given. And then the dreamer who had the problem speaks and tells us what the problem is. And it's unbelievable how accurate often the resolution or the understanding is at the end. It's profound. It's just amazing. First time I did it, I couldn't believe it. But
one thing I don't know if the normal outcome of dream work is supposed to be this way. So I'm really asking the question I find that this dream work that we've done has been valuable, not in defining a definitive interpretation, but in providing many questions and avenues of interpretation. Is that the basic goal of Dreamwork?
Well, I think it's a and also.
It's an
I think
and also.
it's
Okay.
always bringing up more questions, right? And then the more we explore the possibilities of interpretation or projection, then the more it may bring up stuff, right?
I
Or
see.
be associated with stuff. So it's really, I think you have to trust your gut too. I mean, if a person has a dream and they've done a little work on it, or they get an aha, then trust that. It's like, okay, this is like divine energy that's and a message that's been given to me in a symbolic form. And I'm supposed to pay attention, you know? Now, if you are in a great deal of transition in your life, and sometimes in the dying process, some people, depending on where they are in the process, will have a hard time remembering dreams. Whenever you're going through a lot of changes, it's often hard to capture the dream. You're dreaming, for sure, but you can't capture it because it's not familiar enough. In other words, it starts very symbolic, and then the more it comes around and around, the more we associate and can retain and grasp the images. Like in this dream, we grasp the precipice, we grasp the cat. Now, that dream may have come in a very symbolic form originally, which might not have made a whole lot of sense, you know? So there's all sorts of awarenesses in the dream that will continue to evolve and continue to manifest and influence more. It's to me, it's the most fascinating process of understanding oneself. Because, and to accept all of it, even though some of it might freak you out or scare you. I've had dreams that were terrifying. And yet all that is really saying is, this is so important. Pay attention. This is critical. Pay attention.
Right.
So the dream is always there to help us in, health and wholeness, to bring us to a clearer consciousness, better decision making, more compassion, more community, all of those good things. And what's the shadow too?
When you asked earlier for a show of hands of who has done dream work before, there were a lot of hands went up, including mine.
Yeah.
But I got to say that I haven't done dream work, if this is dream work, so to speak. I haven't had dream work like this, right? Which is, so I wonder if that's other people's experience too. When they raise their hand, was it of this type or was it of a different type? Just as and are there types? I'd like to open that up to the floor as well, if there's different things, because there's a lot of hands that raise that says I've had dream work.
Terry, since Diana was one of my teachers, both
okay.
during spiritual direction as well as one of the dream conferences a number of years ago.
I see. All right.
This is very familiar, but hearing so much again from Diana has just really brought things that I've forgotten. I just want to say a word about being in a dream group. I began, as part of my training, a small dream group. Zoom, it was COVID time. People from the West Coast to the East Coast. There are 8 of us. And that was 4 years ago. We meet every 2 weeks. We have become, it is so sacred, so spiritual for us. It's enriched our lives so much. And the whole idea of you learn as much from other people's dreams as you do your own. It just is such an incredibly creative, time, full of trust, and often humor. Because some of those images, you know, as we got to know each other, we know what we can kind of, you know, make fun of and hold up as a, you know, there's the jokester or whatever.
I see.
But I would highly recommend, if anybody is interested, to try to reach out and see if, you know, somebody could form a dream group.
Thank you, Betsy.
Very
That was
interesting.
wonderful for you to identify all of that. And I appreciate your acknowledgement. It's good to see you.
Yeah. It's been a while. Yeah.
Anybody
So
else
did
can kind of reflect on that, the difference or the similarities between the dream work you raised your hand to and what we did, what we've done tonight?
I can, Terry. I
Please.
totally agree with you. If this is dream work, I've never done dream work then.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you found value in both, perhaps, is what I
Oh,
guess.
yeah.
They're just a different approach. That's cool. Yeah. Good deal.
Very
Yeah.
different. And
Yeah.
and this to me seems far more connected to what would seem to be logical and make more sense and help you actually derive some quality from the dream and its interpretation than what I've had exposure to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Without naming names, I know of at least 3 people in the room who have, for lack of a better term, clinical experience, and I wonder if any of those would be, have dreams been used in their clinical practice and how it comports, so to speak, with the beauty that we've seen tonight. Anybody? And again, you don't have to answer that question if you don't want to. Not putting anybody on the spot.
Well, dream work has been a very critical part of my practice. You know, I'll encourage people from the beginning of our association to keep a journal and to include in that journal any dreams that they can remember.
I got you.
I think my work as a clinician interested in dreams has greatly improved since I've been a client of Diana's on occasion.
Okay. Good to know.
Very sweet.
That's good to hear.
Because, you know, I went through Jungian analysis, and of course we work with dreams a lot there, but
Right.
what Diana's presenting is the much more systematic
I see.
protocol and format for approaching a dream than anything that I was acquainted with in analysis, which was looser and more less well defined.
That's interesting to hear.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Then I'm wondering if this, again, my curiosity is really piqued here, is that that we've described this as a group and we participated as a group, but is this methodology, I guess I'm hearing you say, Jim, is that this can be a one-on-one type session with a dream coach, or I forgot, Jungian coach, this can come out in that kind of coaching. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's absolutely true.
Okay, I see.
What I find with my clients, these new clients of coaching, that's basically all they want to do is a dream work. So
Right.
they will, a great way to do this is if you don't do it on Zoom, but if you were to just do it
Sure.
on phone, right? Then what
Oh,
I would do is say to you, send me the dream as a Word document. And then on the phone, we work the dream. But while I'm working each aspect of it, I'm typing in an alternative face,
I see.
fold,
My
say,
God. Right.
of all of our associations, so that at the end of the session, I send that to you so you have a hard copy.
I see.
And
Fascinating.
it works 2 ways, because you get something, you don't have to take notes. so you're more present. And for me, I don't know, something in my brain makes more associations sometimes with things that I have no idea where they came from. But because I'm using sensate and auditory rather than visual in the direct connection, it seems a higher intuition.
Right.
It's been interesting to watch how it's evolved.
I'm sure. Anybody else?
Well, I just want to add that years ago, when I didn't know Diana very well, I had a series of 3 dreams, and I will disclose these dreams over the course of about a year. In each of the dreams, I was diagnosed with cancer, and it was a different kind of cancer in each dream. And I was really concerned about it because there's so much cancer history in my family. So I called Diana, who I didn't know very well, to make an appointment with her. And I thought she was going to say, come over at a certain time. And she said, no, I work on the phone. And I thought, oh, how is that going to work? But it actually worked incredibly well. And at the end of our conversation, and I think it only took that one session, but at the end of the conversation, it clearly was some aspect of me and with dealing with my very critical mother, and it totally clarified all 3 dreams. And I've never had, and thank goodness, I've never had another dream about getting cancer. They just stopped completely. So it really worked. And
That's really neat.
And I have the highest regard for you, Diana, for the work that you do. And I cherish our
Thank you, Judith.
Ditto. I have to say ditto. Thank you to both you and Jim.
And it was
Go back
Judith
a long way.
it was Judith that introduced Diana and me at a center event that got this session idea kick moving. And I think that's good. That's good spirit right there. And I think what you said, Judith, it validates what Diana mentioned earlier about the healing aspect of it, that you be present for it. And it's just, if it's scary, it's just trying to get your attention. It's not that you are facing danger. It's just trying to get your attention so that you can go find that peaceful resolution that you found in your interpretations. Perhaps it seems like it affirms that, which is really, that's comforting in itself. I think that scary is not necessarily bad. It's just a way to get your attention.
I will say, though, that there's also a polarity to that, which is occasionally a person will bring a dream which does indicate possible dis-ease somewhere in the body.
Right.
One of the most startling ones was a woman who was a client of mine in Toronto, and she came with this dream that she entered a cave and it was very light outside, and she was curious. And as she entered into the cave, it began to drip blood, or red, she said. It was red coloring. So my intuition, when we worked the dream, I said, I just think you should go have, an examination. Just check it out. So she did. And she had the doctor said she couldn't believe that there was an awareness of this. It was a very early precancer of her uterus. And so she was, given what she needed and was fine. But if we really pay attention, we are given that information. It's hard to associate or understand, but it's there if you keep working it. Did anyone else want to say anything about their experience as particularly clinicians. I'd love to hear from y'all. Guys are
Can you,
hiding.
There's Vo.
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think I've been talking several times. I was on mute.
Okay, sorry.
Anyway, that by some miracle, I was able to get it fixed.
Okay.
Yeah, from a personal standpoint, years ago, back in 1990, this would have been the dream that I would have referred to personally. It was so frightening to me that I went to my therapist and we interpreted that dream, and it was just just so confirming and miraculous, helpful, whereas I had interpreted it so negatively and scary. It was the perfect dream for me at that moment. I mean, the perfect dream. So ever since then, I have used dreams in the therapy that I do, for 40 years. And it's just, if somebody comes in and, just incidentally says, well, I didn't sleep too well because I had a dream. If they mention the word dream, we stop, and that's where we go.
Perfect.
It is so valuable. Now, I've never done the group. That might be a little too challenging for me intellectually to even go there with a group, but this has been amazing.
Okay. Thank you.
To be part of a group dream. Oh yeah, it's amazing. But definitely dream in my work with people is front and center. Yeah.
That's very good.
It's just so valuable. And we make up so much other stuff in our conscious head, it gets all messed up. But the dream, they don't lie.
That's right. The dream does not lie.
Nope. It is the rock bottom truth. Yeah.
Great.
I think I'll let that be the last word. I think that was very good. That's
perfect.
Yeah, that was very good. Thank you so much, Bo, for that. And Diana, can't thank you enough for what an enriching and rich session this was. Thank you so much. A little bit of confessions. I began to work with Diana. She described the cat and the dog and their approaches to things. And we got along swimmingly, but she was cat and I was dog. And she was going to be graceful in this, and I was going to be dogged in this. And it worked out pretty well. So thank you very much for that collaboration. I've learned something from you in that regard too. So thanks so much.
I thank all of you for your patience, also for the goofy disconnect. God knows what was going on there. But I think what we were able to do as the group, I hope that carries along for you, and that you continue, whether it's with one person or a group. If you ever decide you want to put a group together, let me know. And if I can, I'd love to participate with that. So it could be fun. But we'll see.
Thank you for that offer too.